to throw again. Throws one over the middle. It's tipped, and it's intercepted. C.J. Mosley's got it. Runs right to the 10. 5. Touchdown. Jones has it taken away.
Bradley McDougald.
And he is in for a Jets touchdown. That's over the middle in the air. Picked off. Brian Poole to the end zone. Touchdown. There goes Darnold. And Bell. He's doing it all for the Jets.
And welcome back to the final part of our training camp kickoff mailbag for CYJ Pod. Parts 2 and 1 are both available on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else. But this will be the last part of our training camp kickoff mailbag. We should have more episodes later this week that aren't mailbag questions, and then maybe we'll have another mailbag next week or the week after that. So just stay tuned for all the content coming your way from the CYJ feed. But you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. You can also find us at jetsxfactor.com, which is the best place to go for Jets content. Make sure you go check out the shop. There's a few new rookie T-shirts that were released a few days ago. So you should go check those out. And as always, just has amazing Jets content. And you can also follow us at CYJ Pod on Twitter. You can follow Michael at Michael_Nania, and you can follow myself at Ben W. Blessington. So without further ado, let's just hop right into part 3. At BigVin82 asks, what are the chances of Sam having a year that convinces Jets brass he's the franchise QB we've been waiting for with the current wide receiver stable? I've answered a lot of these first, so I guess I'll throw it to you, Michael, so you get first dibs on this question.
I think the chances are pretty good. Is it a guarantee? Definitely not. But with the emphasis on the offensive line, I think has given him a really good chance to – not really good, but solid chance to take that leap going forward. And in terms of having a season that's not just improved, but also proves or convinces based on the question that he is the franchise quarterback going forward. I think to do that, he just has to have a season that if he can, he's 23 years old. So if he can at 23 years old have a season that is comfortably, unquestionably top 10 to 12 in the league, I think you could feel really good about that going forward. So that would be somewhere, just to throw some numbers out there, maybe 95 passer rating, 32 touchdowns, 12 picks, something like that. And the offense being average to above average because there are other factors he can't control, but at least average. I think that'd be a good jumping off point for a 23-year-old quarterback going forward. So hopefully that's what you get from him. And I think the chances are solid. Second year in a system for the first time in his career, and he's talked about it being more comfortable in the system. And obviously he's going to say that, but I think it is a legitimately helpful thing. But it all comes down to the O-line. Can that unit stay healthy? Can they gel with this offseason being shorter and no preseason games? And can they fulfill their talent level and be an average unit? If they can do that, I think Darnold should be in good shape.
Yeah, I think, sure, do the Jets have elite talent, especially on the outside with the receivers? No, but I do think that the Jets have enough talent. I think the biggest thing is the offensive line, and I think they've elevated their offensive line enough. Fingers crossed, we'll see how they gel over the first few weeks, but especially by midseason, I think they've upgraded that offensive line enough to be a middle of the pack O-line, and then certainly we'll keep building with Joe Douglas. But when you look at you're getting Chris Herndon back, which is absolutely massive. He's honestly, in some ways, your number one receiver and Sam Darnold's favorite target from his rookie year. He missed the entire season last year when I was expecting him to have a big year last year. So that would be absolutely massive. You're also getting back Ryan Griffin from the end of last year, who missed the end of last year with an injury. So you're going to have two very solid tight ends. I mean, I think, we'll see how Herndon develops, but I think Herndon can develop into a top 10 tight end in this league, or at least a top 10 receiving tight end in this league. And I think Griffin is, a solid number 2 tight end. He's no slouch. Then, you have the best running back, or at one point, the best running back in the league, arguably the best receiving running back, the best check down running back, the best receiving running back in the league. And was viewed before last year as arguably the best pure playmaker in all of football. You have him in the backfield. I like Frank Gore and Michael Pirine as well, providing depth. And then when you move to the receivers, I think there's a lot of potential there. I mean, I wish it was a deeper unit. I wish it was more proven. But one, Jamison Crowder, as you mentioned, is a top 10 slot option in the National Football League who has great rapport with Sam. So, he's going to get at least 100 catches this next year. Denzel Mims is a guy I'm super excited about. We'll see how he develops, but, people have compared him to DK Metcalf. I'm not going to make lofty comparisons to start off his career, but he was a guy that I was very surprised fell to the second round. And I think he's the type of receiver that Sam Darnold has never had, and the type of the receiver that the Jets really haven't had since Brandon Marshall. He's not, and he's super fast, but it's how physical he is, how he wins jump balls and contested catches, and he's an explosive playmaker. I think he's perfect for Sam Darnold. We'll see how he is in year one, but I think long-term that's your, at least a number 2 receiver for Sam for the next few years. And then Brashad Perriman, I was on board with re-signing Robbie, especially for what he got, but Robbie was not perfect. He was a fairly one-dimensional receiver, made a lot of little mistakes, which bothered Adam Gase, was not the crispest route runner, messed up a lot on timing. A lot of times where you'd see receivers running into each other or 2 receivers right in the same area where it definitely looked like it shouldn't have been. I don't mean to say anything, but Robbie was in the middle of that a lot. You can watch Robbie Sabo, no pun intended, had a video on Robbie Anderson and why he shouldn't be brought back for the contract that he was expected to get. But Perriman was a guy who finished last year, as good as anybody in the NFL and brings a lot to the table that Robbie brought. He probably has a more of a rounded skill set, but a lower floor than Robbie is what I would say. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is the Jets have ample weapons for Sam Darnold. It's not perfect. He's not, in Kansas City with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire or, any of the other top places. Certainly the Browns have done a better job of surrounding Baker Mayfield with talent, and probably the Bills. You're hoping that the Jets can take that next step into getting a legitimate number 1 wide receiver, hopefully in addition to Mims and other, keep building out the offensive line next year. But this year, I think he has good enough talent, and I think it all comes back down to the offensive line. It'll help him having familiarity in the system, like you said, hopefully he's going to go through his progressions faster. He'll also hopefully have more time to create, which is when he's at his best, is when the play breaks down, and you can't really capitalize that when, he's being hit within 2 seconds because there's a miscommunication on the offensive line. When he has 4, 5, 6 seconds to dance around in the pocket, run around, he's like a Big Ben. He's like a Tony Romo. That's his biggest positive, as I would say, hit that and throwing on the run. So all in all, the improved offensive line and will be the biggest difference in addition to the familiarity in the scheme, taking that second-year jump. And then I think the weapons are enough. At William Kerr 87 asks, if you're picking your 53, who are you taking at wide receiver and cornerback? Any outside bets on undrafted guys making the roster? Biggest name you believe will not make the squad come cut down day? I don't know if those last two, Michael, do you think those last 2 questions are still referring to receiver and corner, or is that just an overall roster?
I think that's more the overall roster, but
okay.
I guess I'll start out on this one. In terms of the undrafted free agents, I think this is a year where it's going to be really hard for one of them to make the team. You have no preseason to show off. There was no rookie minicamp. So it's going to be really hard for those guys to make the team. They actually already – and now this guy's probably had the worst chance of any of them, but they already cut Dominique Davis, who was one of the undrafted free agents. And again, he probably had no chance. He was a D lineman. I actually ranked him last on my ranking of every single player on the team, so I'm 1 for 1 right now. Actually, I ranked him and Ian Berryman, the punter, they for some reason had those 2 guys, the bottom 2 in my ranking, and they're already gone. So I'm 2 for 2 on that. Yeah. So I think it's going to be tough for the undrafted free agents, but Bryce Huff, I think, has a good chance.
Friend of the podcast.
Yeah, friend of the podcast. I think he's a better than undrafted talent. I think he's going to make the team. I do think he is, even with these circumstances, just because of how weak they are in terms of juice at the edge spot as a pass rusher. So I'm going to go with him as an undrafted free agent. But in terms of receiver and cornerback, I think with receiver, you're going to see Mims, Perriman, Vincent Smith, Barrios. Those guys are locks. Smith and Barrios because of special teams. And beyond them, then I think the competition gets wide open there.
Crowder.
And Crowder. How did I forget him? But I think beyond those 5, I think Josh Doxson has a good chance. He's probably more talented and somehow more accomplished than the rest of the guys in this competition. Maybe one of Lawrence Cage or George Campbell makes a play. I don't think so, but the door is open. I think I'd go with those 6 at receiver. The first 5 I mentioned plus Doxson. Then at cornerback, I'd probably go with Desir, Bless Austin, Millette, Quincy Wilson, Bryce Hall, and Brian Poole at the cornerback spot. So that's probably what I'd go with those two. And the biggest name I think won't make the team come cut down day. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. We don't really have many big names.
They don't really have anyone who I think would be in that boat because their bottom of the roster is just so weak. Anyone whose name is big enough is probably making this team.
I would say maybe Brian Winters, but
that's what came to mind. But it's like,
given
all who he is, but he stinks, and you can get rid of his contract easily.
Right, and given all the injuries that you had last year,
like anyone would be surprised. It's the number one guy everyone wants to be cut.
Right, and given all the injuries you had last year, like, is he a good starter? No, but if he's coming off the bench in week 11, like, I'm feeling okay with Brian Winters. It's certainly better than throwing Tom Compton out there. So, I don't think he gets cut. I can't really think of it. I mean, is anybody coming to mind for you? I don't really.
I mean, maybe just to throw this one out there, I don't think so. But just to pick one for the sake of this, maybe Edoga, because I think just because Joe Douglas signed fan obviously likes him to sign that deal as a player that has a lot of projection involved. Signed fan, Edoga has had a lot of questions, I think, with his just maturity, commitment, things like that. That doesn't fit in with what Douglas wants. He was a Mike McCagnon pick. So, there are some reasons for maybe making him a surprise cut. I don't think so. He was a third-round pick last year. I kind of hope he wins the right tackle job. So I do not think so. But just to throw one out there, that's maybe a dark horse surprise pick. I think there are some reasons there.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't see that happening. And I know
I don't think so. I'm just throwing it out there.
If along the same lines of thinking, maybe a second-year player who's picked by Mike McCagnon, but this is at a spot that has a lot more competition. Blake Cashman, maybe. I could see him potentially being
that's
cut.
Actually one that makes sense just because that position is so deep. You have Owasso, Burgess, and Neville Hewitt there. So,
there's
a lot of competition.
In addition to Avery, maybe Avery's the guy, but I think they'll keep
that's another one that makes sense. But at this point, I don't think he is already still on PUP. So, obviously he's still recovering, and they have a lot of depth there. I don't see it, though, this late in the offseason, and just the talent difference. But I guess it is on the table as a potential one.
Right. I think they're going to keep 5 inside linebackers, Mosley, Avery, Peanut, Hewitt, and then those last 2 spots. I mean, maybe Hewitt is in this group, but that last spot is going to be between Blake Cashman and James Burgess. And honestly, I think Burgess probably played better than Cashman last year, but Cashman also has higher upside, was a captain in Minnesota, was a rookie last year. Was probably better in coverage, or is at least higher upside there. So I think Cashman will make it, but if I had to choose one, he might be it. Okay. Actually, I guess I didn't answer the other parts of this question, which would be, again, I agree with you on corner. On wide receiver, I agree with you again. But I will say, and Connor Hughes from The Athletic mentioned this as well, that I think the Jets going to be very active on the waiver wire. Maybe at corner as well, except I actually think they have solid depth at corner. But at receiver, I think you said Berrios and Smith are locks. I don't know about that. I mean, I think they're locks for the initial 53, but especially when the waiver wires roll around, I could see Adam Gase wanting to bring back Demaryius Thomas, given the uncertainty this offseason. He's a guy who knows the offense. So I could see them bringing him in. I could see them signing somebody who gets cut. So between Doxson, Berrios, and Smith, I think they're tentatively making the 53-man roster, but it wouldn't surprise me if at least one of them, isn't on the team come week 1 against the Bills.
I was probably going a little too far calling Smith and Berrios locks. I think maybe 90% is a good number to put it at. I think they'll make the team, but the door is open. Those guys have not proven enough to be locks. So, if anyone else really shows out in camp, then or if there's a name they like a lot on the waiver wire, then they can definitely take one of those spots.
Right. And as you said, one of those undrafted receivers, Lawrence Cager, George Campbell, I could see them potentially beating out Berrios and Smith as well, and Dotson. And I agree with you on Bryce Huff. I was really impressed when we had him on for a film session. You can find that at Jets X Factors YouTube. I think he'll make the team, and primarily just because of how dire that edge rusher spot is. We'll keep it moving here. We have two more. At Jets Midwest asks, with the loss of Adams and onboarding of McDougald. Wait. Oh, okay. I think he's trying to say the onboarding. Okay. With the loss of Adams and we'll just say Bradley McDougald joining the squad, what adjustments are we likely to see Gregg Williams make in scheme and play calling? Michael, I guess I can throw this over to you first. But certainly, Jamal Adams, yes, he's a strong safety, but he, affects pretty much every single person on that defense. He's a very valuable piece for Seattle. Definitely happy with the return we got, and Bradley McDougald's no slouch. But Michael, I'll throw it to you first. What are the biggest differences that you think you'll see in Gregg Williams' scheme?
Well, Robbie Sabo did a really good breakdown on this exact question at JetX. So definitely check that out. It explains it a lot better than I probably could. But essentially what it kind of is getting at is that with Adams to McDougald in coverage, not that you're not losing a lot, because Adams, look, he's great in coverage, and you are downgrading there, but that's McDougald's strong suit. He can man up against tight ends. He can go in the slot. I've even seen some reps from him against receivers, out of the backfield, against running backs. He closes well. He can play cover 2, single high. That's not his strong suit. He's better in man coverage, but he can play the deep part of the field. That's kind of why his numbers went down this past season, at least in terms of coverage and grades and stuff like that, because he was playing more deep zone, and that's not his strong suit, but he can do it. But in the box, man coverage, or coverage in the box against tight ends, he is not too much of a downgrade from Adams there, because he's really good in those areas. But in run defense, I think that's where the biggest drop-off is. And that's not to say McDougald is terrible there, but I think he's definitely below average. Joe Blewett will have a lot of clips of that, of some examples of him struggling against the run. But that's kind of where the drop-off is going to be. So part of how they can make up for that is using Brian Poole and bringing him in the box to kind of take over some of the reps that might have gone to Adams, playing at kind of that hybrid outside linebacker kind of position on the edge, coming off the backside to defend runs, just taking a lot of those reps from Adams in the box, some of those going to Poole, and then you can bring McDougald over to cover the slot on reps Poole would be playing it. So Poole is a big part of this. He's going to be a big hybrid piece in terms of both doing what he does in slot coverage, but also playing a little bit of a safety role and doing some of the things that Jamal Adams did. And Marcus May as well could be coming down from the single high to kind of cover up a little bit of that as well, and having McDougald, who has more experience playing deep than I think Adams does. Not that Adams couldn't or didn't do it, because he did, but McDougald can do that. So I think you're going to see more of May down in the box as well, a little bit more. He'll still mostly be up high because that's his strength, but a little bit more of him. But the biggest thing is I think Poole is going to be playing a big part in filling the shoes of Adams. But Robbie Sabo had a really good breakdown of this question with a few visuals of how the defense could look with this trade being made and how it's going to change in 2020. But I think Poole is the biggest X factor here.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that Jamal Adams may have been the MVP of the Jets 2019 defense, but Brian Poole is the X factor for the Tampa 2 situation that we were talking about. Did we already talk about that on the podcast?
You did bring that up.
Okay. It's been a long one. It's going to be cut up into some some pieces. But yeah, I mean, Brad, I think you did a good job that Bradley McDougald is a good replacement. He's not the same player that Adams is. He's not as fast. He's not going to be as much of an outside linebacker, but Brian Poole,
pass rushing too is a big thing. McDougald doesn't have a ton of experience doing that and doesn't have much speed either, but Poole is also probably going to be filling up some of those blitz reps left over.
I think you'll see Poole. I think you'll see May do it, but the guy I think that out of all those DBs that you're going to see, and he won't be able to do everything that Jamal Adams can do, but I think you're going to see Ashton Davis be blitzing quite a bit,
right? Yeah.
Because he's going to be playing that 3 safety look. And by the way, he played everything for Cal. So he's similar to Jamal in that, aspect, because he did play linebacker. He played strong safety. He played free safety, slot corner, outside corner. He returned kicks, and he was a team captain, and he was a hurdler or whatever too. So he has the athleticism and the versatility to do this. But as a rookie, I think, he's going to have some rookie struggles. So I'm glad that they got McDougald, so you're not forcing him to start. But what Ashton Davis can do is one in those 3 safety looks. It gives you a lot of versatility. If you want to have Davis play back, you can put May in the box and put McDougald in man coverage or whatever. But I think in dime looks, Ashton Davis is going to be the 4th corner that you bring. Corner. He's going to be that second slot guy you bring in. So let's just say that the Jets' outside corners are Desir and Bless Austin. Your inside guys are Poole, and then you'll have Ashton Davis. And I think you'll see Davis blitzing a lot from that spot, even if he's not playing corner per se. I think you're just going to see him dropping down and just to utilize his speed and bring him off the edge. He doesn't have the same pass rushing moves that Jamal had, but I think you're going to see a lot of corner blitzes and safety blitzes using Ashton Davis as the primary guy. May can do it. McDougald, not as much, but Ashton Davis does bring the athleticism to do it. And I think Gregg Williams is going to have a lot of fun with him in that role. All right, last question from @MaskedLe'Veon. With Adams out the door, do you believe Joe Douglas now has full freedom to build the roster how he wants? It felt like with previous GMs that they were always fighting for their job. Do you think ownership is just going to let Douglas do his thing? I don't think I think Adams going out the door does show a little bit that Joe Douglas has control that the ownership didn't. I guess probably Woody Johnson didn't take too kindly to Jamal Adams calling him out, but Jamal Adams does bring in a lot of jersey sales. He is a top player. The Jets don't draft many potential Hall of Fame players, so they had confidence in Joe Douglas. The thing I'll say about that, because we don't really know what the exact structure is like, but I do agree, I do think that Joe Douglas has more freedom than other past GMs. And the way I kind of feel is, with other GMs, I was always kind of worried about what they were doing and thinking about, well, do they have a plan? What are they doing? It kind of just seems like they were just treading water. If they would make this move kind of for the sake of making this move and draft this guy for the sake. But with Joe Douglas, I really feel like he has a concrete plan and a plan that will lead to the Jets becoming a perennial contender. It might not be, in the next year, next 2 years, maybe not the next 3 years, but he has 6 years to build it. So that should be an initial sign that Chris Johnson fully believes in him and is just going to let him do his thing. But with Joe Douglas, I'm really not that, and we'll see how his draft picks pan out, but I feel like I'm spending a lot less energy worrying about the Jets front office. I feel like I'm just sitting back and relaxing, as a fan should be, and letting Joe Douglas, do his job. I think he has a plan. He has a vision. He knows how to win in this league. He's seen plenty of Super Bowls, 3, and it was a major part of rebuilding the post-Chip Kelly Eagles into a Super Bowl contender within 2 years. And he knows it's to protect the quarterback and get after the quarterback, as we said earlier. So I'm very confident in Joe Douglas. I liked his plan, or I liked his the way he executed this offseason. It seems like he had the smart approach to penny pinch this offseason with what's transpired. I like the value he got in the draft, the way he was able to move back and get Mims, what he got for Adams. And as I said on the emergency pod for Jamal Adams, these picks, and look, Jamal Adams is an amazing player, but these picks is the Jets' golden ticket out of being cellar dwellers. I'm not saying that they're going to, they have to execute on them. If it was Mike McCagnon making these picks, I'd be a lot less confident. But if Joe Douglas is who we think he is, and he's assembled the front office that we think he has a awesome and pretty much unprecedented chance for any Jets GM in recent memory to really get the Jets turned around and into a team that is not a laughing stock, not the butt of every joke, but a team that's in the playoffs every year. Because with 4 picks in the first 2 rounds, or in the first round for 2 years, 5 picks within the first 100, that's a lot of flexibility. That's a lot of picks you can build around Sam Darnold. You can trade down and get more picks, build out your roster, build out the depth. I love Jamal Adams, but, paying a strong safety $18 to $20 million might not be the wisest thing for the team right now. I think that's another thing is Joe Douglas has a tremendous understanding of positional value, where Mike McCagnon pretty much had his head in the sand about it. He was drafting interior defensive linemen after interior defensive linemen. He was paying big money to running backs and inside linebackers. He was ignoring the offensive line, and Joe Douglas knows that you need, a left tackle, you need a quarterback, you need an edge rusher, and you need a corner probably. That you can maybe survive without the corners, but he knows the positions that have value, and so you move a guy in Adams who's an amazing player, but at a position that isn't super valuable, and a guy who wanted to get out, and God forbid he gets injured and whatnot. You got max value, and now you have this capital to really, really shift the Jets and Joe Douglas's vision. And from what I've seen in 1 year, I'm really excited to see what that vision looks like in 2022 and beyond. That was a bit of another tangent. I think I got about 6 of them this episode. I mean, the episode's going to be broken up, so never mind. But Michael, just kind of what are your thoughts, I guess, on Joe Douglas having the freedom from ownership to do what he wants, his plan, his vision, and how he's done so far?
Yeah, I think it definitely seems like he does have some room to do that, just based on, I think it's been a mostly patient route. Like you said, trading Adams isn't the easiest thing to do as a team that doesn't have a lot of marketability, doesn't have a lot of recent success to bank on. It definitely takes a little bit, having that thumbs up from the ownership to be able to do that. So I think it definitely does seem like he has some of that freedom. Did past GMs not have that freedom? I'm not sure if I ever felt that way, but I think that definitely with Douglas, it feels like he has some room to, even if not necessarily do what he does have the room to do what he wants to do. But I think the biggest thing is that he has the freedom to be patient with this rebuild, and he isn't rushing anything and isn't pressured into making big money free agent signings like some of the ones that, he could have made this offseason at the offensive line, other positions, but decide to be a little more frugal and a little more just smarter and more patient with his monies. But I think you laid out a lot of the points that I would have said positively about him. There are a lot of things to like about his approach this offseason. So I'm really excited to see how he builds this team. And if he can successfully hit on those picks, I think, like you said, it is this Adams trade as the exclamation point this offseason. It's the golden ticket to get them out of the sea of perpetuity that they've been in. They have the ticket now. They have all these lottery tickets. Now you just got to get to the train station. They got to find it. They got to hit on those picks. So you have the path out. Just got to get there now by hitting on the draft picks. So that's going to be the biggest part. But they have a GM who I think has given them the path to get there. And to get back to the original question, does he have the full freedom to build the roster how he wants? I think he clearly does, just based on the patience of this route and the long-term vision. Not all teams buy into that. We've seen the Jets not buy into it before, but it seems like they are now. So I'm excited to see what Douglas does.
Yeah, I mean, I think every GM that's managed the Jets have had, freedom to manage the roster the way they want, but I think they were on a much shorter leash. Whereas I feel like Douglas, with the 6-year contract, has a very long leash to be patient and not have a playoff mandate within 2 years or whatever. I don't see the Jets firing Joe Douglas, at the earliest, maybe after, it depends on I guess I shouldn't jinx anything. It depends how these picks go. But anyways, I just feel like he has a lot longer of a time to build the team up the right way, not rush anything, just understand where they are as a team. Even if they're not going to be in the playoffs for 2-3 years, but if they're building and accumulating talent the right way and he's hitting on these picks, then all of a sudden by year 4, year 5, now you're looking at, now we're one of the top teams in the league. It's been such a journey to try to get back up there since the Rex days. Those teams were largely built on Eric Mangini and Mike Tannenbaum, I guess. They're drafting, and then Rex was a hell of a coach and motivator, and he brought in some vet pieces, and that topped it off for the Jets. But then the drafting quickly fell off. So, if Joe Douglas can bring back that, level of drafting, especially with all these picks, and he can build up the team, then I think you're going to see the Jets be, a perennial contender in a few years. And the other thing is, I think some people view this as the Jets punting on 2020, which that's not really the point I'm about to make. I don't think they're going to contend. I still think that they have a shot to make that 7th wild card. I don't really think – I think they did finish 7-9. It may have been a cupcake schedule the last, 6 games or whatnot, or 8 games. But, they had some good, solid performances and anyways, I just think they're still around that same ballpark. But the point I'm trying to make here is that this trade was not Joe Douglas just sitting back like previous. This was an aggressive trade by a GM. This is a move that was with a vision, with a plan. And yes, Jamal Adams forced his way out. Yes. But this is a vision and a plan, and Joe Douglas is executing it. This is an incredibly aggressive move. And I feel like if it was Mike McCagnon or John Idzik or whatever, they probably would have just paid Jamal Adams 18, 20 million. And now it's like, okay, the cap has gone down. You're paying the strong safety a ton of money, who's great. Who knows if he gets injured or anything. But by the time you've built up the team to be good enough, he's probably going to need a new contract. I mean, you're honestly fast tracking the rebuild to being a perennial Super Bowl contender. That's why I put out that tweet that said, which road leads to the Jets being Super Bowl contenders faster, which was the trade or keeping Jamal Adams. And it's not necessarily to say that, do the Jets with Jamal Adams, are the Jets with Jamal Adams a better team? Yes. But 3 years from now, 4 years from now, with the extra capital that they have, I don't know about that. I mean, they have to execute on it. But this is an opportunity for Joe Douglas to fast track this rebuild into being perennial contenders, where I don't think he would have had that with Adams. So it's an incredibly aggressive move. I'm really excited about Joe Douglas and the vision that he has and the way he goes about things. We'll see about the head coach and to the lesser extent a quarterback, because I still believe in Sam quite a bit. But I do think the Jets are heading in the right direction. Michael, unless you have anything else there, I guess we can wrap it up. That was a pretty long mailbag. I imagine I'll split this into a few parts. But anything you want to add?
I think everything you said on Joe Douglas really sums up everything positive about him. Just a plan that makes sense. And
that's it. That's our bare minimum. It's just a plan.
That's it. I'm not even going to add anything to that. I was going to, but I'm just going to leave it right there at that. A plan that makes sense. It's two parts there. You have to have a plan, and it has to make sense. I don't think Jets GMs of the past have hit both of those marks.
And have to execute it, because John Idzik maybe did have a plan by trading Revis and getting all those picks, and then he just did not execute it. But Joe Douglas, I like the way it's going so far. We'll see how these picks pan out. That'll do it for us. You can follow this podcast at CYJ Pod on Twitter. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, wherever. You can find us at jetsxfactor.com. Again, this isn't just a company man talk. I really do think you should check out the site. It is by far the best Jets website out there. Get a free trial, read the free articles, whatever. It's just some of the best content that you're going to find. I did make my writing debut. I do plan to write quite a bit more. Wrote about how the NFL could do a bubble, so you can check that out. Michael has articles every day, so you can just always refresh Jets X Factor, and you'll find his nerd stats every day. And I think that's all the plugs. You can follow Michael at Michael_Nania. I don't know if I said that. But all right, I guess that'll wrap it up. That was our mailbag. We look forward to doing more of these. And as I said at the beginning, Michael and I's plan is to just have more episodes more frequently. Just, we'll see if maybe we go with the schedule. But I think the plan will just be to have multiple episodes a week. So there's just always CYJ in your feed. And especially as we're getting into football season, guys have taking their physicals, taking their tests, or getting into the meetings. Technically, training camp has started, even though it doesn't feel like that. I do miss seeing. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, I think by the time they're in padded practice, we'll get the training camp updates, because that's probably my favorite part of the summer, is reading about how Darnold did on a 7-on-7. So that'll do it for us. We appreciate you listening. Our listens have been doing really well recently, so we really appreciate that. We'll be doing another mailbag probably in a bit. We'll probably have some guests on as well. And as I said, just content. As I said, really excited about the way that the direction the Jets are heading in. And as they head into their 2020 season, we couldn't be happier to be bringing you podcasts. So hope everybody's staying safe, staying healthy, and let's just hope there's a football season.
Throw again. Throws one over the middle. It's tipped, and it's intercepted. C.J. Mosley's got it. Runs right to the 10. 5. Touchdown. Jones has it taken away.
Bradley McDougald.
And he is in for a Jets touchdown. That's over the middle, in the air, picked off. Brian Poole to the end zone, touchdown. There goes Darnold, and Bell. He's doing it all for the Jets.